Hello, my name is Brooke Pelfrey, and today I'm going to be talking about human performance technology. What is it? So, through research, I actually determined that human performance technology is actually kind of challenging to define. What I did find was that there were some key components of human performance technology that several authors or researchers agreed with. So, the following list of things that I'm going to give you are things that I had four researchers that agreed on. Those researchers include Kang and Melinda, Gilbert, Carliner, and O'Driscoll. Those key components that they agreed on for human performance technology included a focus on outcome, an emphasis on improving productivity, a systematic approach, which is actually a method that is used. And so the primary method that I've seen in my research so far has been that of the ADDIE method. And it's just giving that systematic approach, the steps to take. And then the systemic. They all say that human performance technology is systemic, meaning how parts can relate to each other. And I actually needed to do a little more digging when referring to systematic and systemic. And so I did access Merriam Webster to help me determine the difference between those two words. So the first step in the human performance technology model is the analysis stage. The analysis stage happens when the one that's implementing the human performance technology model has to determine or identify the ideal performance versus the actual performance. There will be a gap between the ideal and the actual performance in order for you to use the human performance technology model. And so while you're determining that gap, you will also assess the cause for the gap. The next step in the human performance technology model is actually the intervention selection stage. And in the intervention selection stage, there has been a new problem that's been identified, and now you have to determine what needs to happen in order to bridge that gap between that ideal performance and that actual performance. And so you're going to pick some type of intervention to try to bridge that gap. The next stage in the human performance technology model is the intervention implementation. And this is pretty cut and dry. It is what it says it is. In this stage, you put the intervention that's selected into practice. And then for the evaluation stage, you actually determine, did the intervention that was selected work, or were the gaps closed, or is there going to be a reassessment? Maybe a different intervention needs to happen. As a teacher, I think about how can the human performance technology model actually be used in my classroom. And so if I was to put this into application, this is what it would look like. During the analysis stage, a student would take a norm referenced assessment that compares that student to other students in the United States on literacy and computation ability. The assessment would be very thorough in determining the gaps that that child has. Once those gaps are identified, we would move on to the intervention selection stage. Now, that student was actually identified as needing assistance with oral reading fluency, specifically in the area of blending, so the curriculum or intervention that would be used would be sound sensible. Then I would move on to the implementation of that intervention. The student would receive 45 minutes each day in a room with an interventionist, working in a small group, practicing that blending gap that they have. And then to move on to that evaluation, that student would be evaluated every 2 weeks to assess their progress on blending. When that student meets that goal that's specific to them, they would move on to another group to help with the next skill to improve their oral reading fluency. If they still haven't made the progress that they need, they may need to stay in that intervention a little longer, or we may need to reevaluate and select a different intervention tool for that child. I hope that this video has helped you to understand the human performance technology model a little better